Hello everyone and welcome to another video where in this one we're going to be talking about my top 5 personal tips for just being a better designer and just having a more efficient and faster workflow. So let's jump into it and let's see what they are. Okay, my first tip for you here is one which I use every day and it's based around selecting layers the easy way. So if you've got a document like this that has a lot of layers to it, and it can be kind of hard to select the one you want or just try and find it really. So one easy way to do this is if you hold down the Alt key and then you right click on the layer that you want and it'll just select the appropriate layer automatically for you and you can move that around. Another way you can do it is just pressing Alt Shift and then selecting another layer that you want and another and another, and what this is going to do is going to move them all as a group. Another thing you can do is if you've got a layer like this and I try to do Alt and right click, you'll see that it'll select a sharpening mask in front. To get around that and to see what layers are behind that, what you can do is just hold down the Control key, right click, and it'll give you a list of all the layers that are underneath your mouse cursor, which can be quite handy if you want to select something that's behind another layer. What you can do as well is come up to your selection tool here and just check auto select with layer mode selected. What this will do is this will allow you to click on any layer and just drag it direct from there, and what this is going to do is take the top layer that your mouse is over, select it, and you can move that. So I can just click and drag, click and drag, and click and drag without having to press any other key. I tend to have this turned off because it can be a little bit easy to accidentally misclick and move something, but it's all up to personal preference. So let's move on to the next one. So one of the hidden features inside of Photoshop is that you can use math to either increase, decrease the size of something or the value of something by a certain amount without having to go to another program or work it out for yourself. So one of the ways you can do this is if we wanted to say increase the size of this text here by a certain value, we can double click on it. And we can go up to the size here and say we wanted to increase it by 1.5, times it by 1.5. We can hit spacebar times 1.5, and that's what it's going to do. We can do the same for divide here, so we can divide that by 2 to make it smaller, or we can increase it by say 50 pixels, and that's going to do the same there. One thing we can also do as well is, like I said, this works in any sort of value box that you can find. So if we wanted to change the width of it, we can go here, hit space, we can do plus 50 pixels, or we can take away 100 pixels, or we can times it by 8 and make it massive. So you can see how quickly you can use math to work out anything relatively quickly inside of the program without having to jump to a calculator or having to work it out yourself. So one of the more easier tips here is how to duplicate a layer quickly and easily while staying focused on the task at hand. So we've got some snow here, turning on and off. So the easiest way to copy that is to just select the layer, hold down Alt and click and drag, and you can copy out as many layers as you want. Another way to do this is to just hold Control and J, and you're doing the exact same thing, but you're just not moving it at the same time. And we can move these around and create a mess of snow. And that's how you duplicate things very easily and quickly inside of Photoshop. So a great tool to learn here today is how to merge layers and how to merge them all into one and have more control over how the merge occurs. So as you can see here, we've got this motorbike and we've got a bunch of layers on top that just basically define the style of it. So what we're going to do is we're going to select all the layers that we need, and we're going to just press Control, Alt and E, and what this has done is it's made a copy of the layer and just merged it all together for us. And then we can take that layer, sharpen it, do whatever we want. Another thing we can do is we can do Shift, Control, Alt and E. And what this is going to do is it's going to create a copy of the entire layer and paste it on top. So it's basically like a flattened image, but it keeps all of your layers below it. And then another one you can do, which is similar to the first one, is if we get rid of this, we can get rid of the bike. We can select all of our bike layers again, and we can just press Control E, and it's going to merge them all together. So there's some great ways in which you can control how you merge layers in a non-destructive and destructive way. Next up, my fifth and final tip is basically one which Photoshop was designed for, and this is a practice which I've been in for pretty much my whole design life, and that is non-destructive editing. And this is basically being able to go back to the original image if you make a mistake. So one of the best tips I can give you for tip number 5 is non-destructive editing. And what this basically means is you're trying to do as little damage to the original image as possible. So you can always scale back and go back to where you started essentially. So as you can see here with how I've constructed this bike layer, everything is an adjustment layer that's piled on top of the bike layer. So nothing is actually affecting the bike layer. If I isolate the bike layer, you can see that I can go back to what the original image actually looked like. And I can turn it all back on. And we can have all our adjustment layers done. Now this is incredibly useful because say if you just came in here and merged all these together and then the client said that they want a green bike. Well, you've got to go back in here now, re-edit all of this to make it green, which takes a lot of work and a lot of time. But because of the way we've done it here, we can just go here, select the green, and we can just go down and just change it all to the green that we want. So you can see we've got a lot of control over our workflow, and if we want to go back and change anything later on down the line, because there's going to be criticism, there's going to be back and forth between you and the client, and trying to do this as much as possible will save you a lot of time in the future. And some of the ways we can do this, like I said, is just by using adjustment layers, clipping them to the original image, or if you wanted to go one step further, we can use blending options and we can convert the original layer to a smart object. And what a smart object is going to do is it's going to sample from the original image every time you make an adjustment to it. It's going to keep that live. So an example of this is I've just converted this to a smart object and I'm going to transform this, make it nice and small. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to scale that back up again. And you can see it's red from the original image both times, so don't lose any of that original quality. If I rasterize the layer and try to do the same thing again and made it small, scale it back up, made it big, you can see just how pixelated that has become. You can see how much that has changed the image because we've edited it in a destructive way. So the best practice would be to have an original image, convert it to a smart object, and then do all of your adjustment layers on top of that to really give you a security when it comes to scaling things back and going back to what it used to look like. The only downside that you've got to watch out for when converting images to a smart object is it does increase your file size by a considerable margin, so just be wary of that. But yeah, that's it for this tip. I hope you enjoyed it. Now I'm going to put this bonus tip in here because I think it's a really important one. I think it's one that a lot of people just fail to do, and then when the time comes, it really lands them in deep order. And that is to just basically back up every single thing that you do. Most services out there now are relatively cheap for quite a decent amount of storage, and there's really no excuse in this day and age with how inexpensive hard drives are to just back up everything. Have multiple locations where you save files and just make sure that there's an offsite copy somewhere in the cloud or on a different hard drive somewhere, so that if things go south, you've always got a peace of mind there that your work is safely secured somewhere offsite. I personally use Dropbox and everything I do just gets automatically saved into there, so I don't have to worry about it. And one of the advantages of that is my work is basically anywhere where I go. So if I go to a client, I can just quickly scroll through my Dropbox folder on my iPad and I can show them my work very quickly, very easily. It's all there ready to go. If the client wants to see something different, they want to see it in a different way, I've got all my original files there. I've got everything I need to show them. So it's a great way to centralize all your files, keep them backed up, and make sure that nothing bad can ever happen to them and you don't end up losing a lifetime's worth of work due to an accident. Thank you for listening. I hope you found these tips useful. And if you liked what you saw, please leave a comment, like, rate, subscribe, all that good stuff. And I'll see you in the next video. Thank you.